humanitarian focus has been largely absent, given the preambular words of the NPT, which says, considering the devastation that would be visited upon by all mankind by nuclear war, and the consequent need to make every effort to avert the danger of such war. The reference to catastrophic humanitarian consequences was accepted by all the signatories of the NPT, which, as you know, consists of all the countries in the world except for India, Israel, Pakistan, and North Korea, which has declared their withdrawal a few years ago. One might argue that this reference was not particularly significant in itself, as it stated the obvious. The significance laid in what it triggered. Since the adoption of the 2010 NPT outcome document, we have seen the gradual emergence of what is now being referred to as the humanitarian initiative. We have seen Council of Delegates at the Red Cross Red Crescent adopt resolutions on this issue. We've seen joint statements delivered at the both at the NPT and the First Committee at the and at the General Assembly of the UN. And we have seen the convening of the two multilateral conferences in Oslo in March last year that you have heard about, and in Nayarit in Mexico this January, where the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons have been put back into the heart of the debate on nuclear weapons. At the Oslo conference, representatives of 128 states participated, as did representatives from the United Nations, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and civil society. I actually met Martin Sheen in Oslo. He was there for this representing civil society, and as a great fan of West Wing, this was a big moment for me. The debates, both in the meeting rooms and outside, demonstrated that patience is running thin as regards the traditional approaches to nuclear disarmament. For decades, political leaders and experts have debated the challenges posed by the continued existence and further proliferation of nuclear weapons, and they are certainly huge. But there has hardly been any debate about the devastating effect these weapons would have if used. The conference in Oslo raised some very deep and serious questions. If nuclear weapons actually were to be used, what would the consequences be? Would we be able to handle the humanitarian catastrophe that would follow a detonation? What would the immediate human impact of a nuclear weapon detonation be like? What does historical experience teach us about the medical effects? Then there are the broader economic, developmental, and environmental consequences. And how would our societies, our communities, our states' preparedness system, civil society, and general public actually deal with the predictable humanitarian consequences that would follow from a nuclear weapon detonation? I've several times heard the testimonies from the Hibakushas, the survivors from the nuclear destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I know that there are students here from Japan. The Hibakusha are living testimonies to the urgency of getting rid of these weapons. Soon the last one will be gone, and it is important that their testimonies live on. Therefore, I want to share with you the testimony of one of the survivors, it is again Patricia Lewis that has sort of summarized this testimony from Setsuko Thurlow, who's 82 years old, and described the horrors of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. She was 13 when the world ended. There in Hiroshima, on that bright blue morning, almost 70 years ago, when all changed utterly. She survived to relate what it is to live through annihilation. That August morning, she was at the army headquarters in Hiroshima with 30 other pupils. With the men in the army, Women and children were doing all kinds of work. Most who died in Hiroshima that day were women and children. She was on the second floor of a wooden building, about a mile from over which the bomb exploded, when at 8:15 a.m. she saw a blinding bluish-white flash. She remembers the sensation of floating in air. She was lifted by the blast and lost consciousness. When she came to, it was in total silence and darkness, no screaming. She was pinned down. The building had collapsed. She heard classmates cry out, "I'm here, help me. God help me." She felt hands touching her and lifting material off her. A man said, "See the light coming through? Crawl towards it." When she got out, the ruined building was on fire. Most of her classmates were burned alive. Just she and 2 others survived. A soldier ordered them to nearby hills. It looked like twilight because of the dust and smoke. She did not see the bomb's mushroom cloud because she was in its fallout. All was deadly silence, broken only by the groans of the injured, she said. Streams of stunned people were slowly shuffling from the city center towards nearby hills. They were naked and tattered, burned, blackened and swollen. Eyes were swollen shut, and some had eyeballs hanging out of their sockets. They were bleeding, ghostly figures. Many held their hands above their hearts to lessen the throbbing pain of their burns. Strips of skin and flesh hung from their bones. Often these ghostly figures would collapse in heaps, never to rise again. She joined the procession to the hills, stepping over dead and dying. We went to a nearby stream to wash the blood and dirt from our bodies. Then we tore off parts of our clothes, soaked them with water and hurried back to hold them to the mouths of the dying who desperately sucked the moisture. There was no medical help. All the city's hospitals had been destroyed. As darkness fell, we sat on the hillside, numbed by the massive scale of death and suffering we had witnessed, watching the entire city burn, she said. The next day she was found by father and mother. He had been away fishing, so missed the explosion. Their house had been flattened. My sister and her 4-year-old son were crossing a bridge at the moment of the explosion, and both were horribly burned. Blackened and swollen beyond recognition, we could later recognize my sister only by her voice and by a unique hairpin in her hair. They lingered for days, then died. Then there was the radiation. My favorite uncle and aunt were in the suburbs and had no external injuries, but a couple of weeks later, they began feeling sick, with purple spots on their bodies, nausea and loss of hair. But they did not know then that the sickness was due to radiation. Her mother said their internal organs seemed to be rotting and dissolving and coming out in black liquid. Later we were told that if purple spots appeared on our bodies, this was a sure sign that we would soon die. Every morning, our routine was anxiously to examine our bodies for the dreaded purple spots. An inscription on the cenotaph of Hiroshima Peace Park reads, "Rest in peace, the mistake will not be repeated." She is, she said, committed to share the warning of Hiroshima until my last breath. Raising the questions about the humanitarian consequences and discussing them is important because it is a way of framing the discourse on nuclear weapons in a manner that reflects the danger that these weapons represent to us all. Therefore, it is the conferences in Oslo and Nayarit are very, very important. But the conference in Mexico, 146 states participated. This is 3/4 of the countries in the world. The chair of the conference underlined that while we certainly don't know all the effects of nuclear detonation, some are quite clear. First of all, we know that the effects of nuclear weapon detonation are not constrained by national borders. It is therefore an issue of deep concern shared by all. We know that beyond the immediate death and destruction caused by detonation, socioeconomic development will be seriously hampered and the environment will be damaged. Suffering will be widespread, the poor and vulnerable being the most severely affected. Reconstruction of infrastructure and regeneration of economic activity, trade, communications, health facilities and schools will take several decades, causing profound harm to society. Radiation exposure could result in short and long-term negative effects in every organ of the human body and would increase cancer risks and future hereditary pathologies. We also know that the risk of nuclear weapons use is growing globally as a consequence of proliferation. The vulnerability of nuclear command and control networks to cyber attacks and to human error, and potential access to nuclear weapons by non-state actors, in particular terrorist groups. As more countries deploy more nuclear weapons on higher levels of combat readiness, the risks of accidental, mistaken, unauthorized or intentional use of these weapons grow significantly. It is a fact that no state or international organization has the capacity to address or provide the short and long-term humanitarian assistance and protection needed in case of a nuclear weapons explosion. Moreover, it would not be possible to establish such capacities, even if attempted. The purpose of these conferences, first in Oslo, then in Nayarit, and later this year in Austria, is to create awareness of the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons that will result in changing the hearts and minds worldwide of those engaging in discussions on these weapons. We are reminded that in the past, weapons have been eliminated after they have been outlawed. More and more states believe that this is the path to achieve a world without nuclear weapons, which is consistent with the obligations of states under international law, including those derived from the NPT as well as from the Geneva Convention. The chair at the Nayarit conference, in his summary, also underlined that the 70th anniversary of the nuclear detonations over Hiroshima and Nagasaki next year is the appropriate milestone to achieve the goal of a commitment to a legally binding instrument on new international standards and norms regarding nuclear weapons. I share the hope expressed by Irma Argello, who some of you may know. She's the founder and chair of the NGO Non-Proliferation for Global Security Foundation in Argentina, who expressed hope that the meeting between Pope Francis, also an Argentinian, and President Obama may contribute to broaden the discourse on nuclear weapons and disarmament so that it may not be considered in isolation from other pressing issues. Both President Obama and Pope Francis have taken firm stance against nuclear weapons and are committed to a world without such weapons. President Obama, as you may remember, even received the Nobel Peace Prize for his commitment. Of course, being committed is one thing. Being able to actually get some movement in the right direction is an entirely different thing. We certainly hope that the attempt at getting the United States to join the treaty on the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty will be attempted again, and that it succeeds in the end, and maybe seeing nuclear weapons the incredible costs that goes into maintaining the nuclear weapons complex in the face of all the other challenges we're facing will also contribute in the right direction. The report by the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, launched just last Monday, raised the threat of climate change to a whole new level, warning of sweeping consequences to life and livelihood. it concluded, well, I'm not going to read the conclusion, but it concluded with the need for adaptation and mitigation of the consequences of the climate change, and these will cost a lot. We know that as our head of the the panel, Rajendra Pachauri, said, the worst is yet to come. Climate change poses a threat to global food stock and to human security, and we see the drought in California. It's been worse this year than ever before. The report warned for the first time that climate change, combined with poverty and economic shocks, could lead to war and drive people to leave their homes. And that the one message that comes out of this is the world has to adapt, and the world has to mitigate, as I mentioned. And in the light of this, it is interesting to ask if it really is sustainable for the nuclear-armed states, including the US, Russia, the UK, France, China, Israel, India, Pakistan, and North Korea, to spend $11 million an hour to maintain their nuclear arsenals. The US share of this is $2 million. So, to round up, if biological and chemical weapons, anti-personnel landmines, and cluster munitions have been banned due to their indiscriminate nature and excessive harm, isn't it time we got rid of nuclear weapons as well? And with that, I thank you for your attention.
Do you have any questions? Okay, so if not, I really would like to thank Dr. Skorpen, so please join me. Thank you. Okay, so now we had a very interesting and inspiring speech regarding the humanitarian aspect of nuclear disarmament. And the next presenter is our friends from Hiroshima and Yasuda Girls High School. And Yasuda Girls High School, this is their second time to participate in the CIF project. And this year, they have a quite big group of 5 students came all the way from Hiroshima to California. So first, all of you are going to introduce yourself. Then 3 of the students are going to make a presentation.
Hi everybody, while we are getting all set up, I will need a hand count for those who plan to attend Peter Pan tonight, which is today after dinner. So could you please see who plans to attend the Peter Pan? Are you guys going? All of you? Like this. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. This whole family is coming to, you know?
Good afternoon. My name is Yukari.
Nanago.
Mai. Shiori.
And Yuka. We are here from Hiroshima, Japan, representing Yasuda Girls Senior High School. We thank you all for welcoming us to this year's conference.
Our CIF team, formed in October 2014, decided to focus on the region of South Asia, with special focus on India. So, why India?
India is a country, like Japan,